Have you ever felt that chill running down your spine, even when you were completely alone? Heard a distant sound and convinced yourself it was just the wind? Or maybe walked into a dark room and, for a moment, felt like you weren't the only one there? If you've ever had that unshakable feeling that something is watching, lurking, just beyond your sight, you're not alone. Because tonight, we're diving into the shadows, into the stories that make your heart race, that make you question what's real and what isn't. So, if you're ready to face the darkness, let's begin. And hey, if you want more stories like this, consider subscribing to the channel. Now, let's dive in. Story 1. I never believed in ghosts, or spirits, or anything like that. I've always been a practical person, down to earth. But after what I experienced on that farm in the countryside of Minas, I was never the same again. It all started when I decided to leave the big city for a while. I was tired of the noise, the traffic, the routine. A friend offered me his grandparents' farm. It's about 30 minutes from the nearest town, in the middle of nowhere. When I arrived, it seemed like paradise. Green hills, clear skies, complete silence. But it was a strange silence, the kind that makes you look over your shoulder. The people in the town were friendly, but they looked at me strangely, as if they knew something I didn't know. The first few days, everything was peaceful. Walks, reading, quiet nights. But then, things started to change. One night, I heard a noise coming from the woods. A rustling, a faint whisper, barely noticeable. I thought it was the wind. But the next day, the same sound, from the same spot. I grabbed a flashlight and went to check. When I lit up the woods, the sound stopped, and the silence that followed was heavy, almost suffocating. After that, everything became strange. Objects moving on their own. The feeling that I wasn't alone. One day, I met an old man tending to his cows. When I told him where I was staying, he got serious and asked, "Are you staying there alone?" I said yes. He shook his head and just said, "Be careful." That night, the noise returned, louder, closer to the house, and then knocks at the door. Soft knocks, like someone running their fingers over the wood. I grabbed a knife, went to the door, and I heard a voice. "Let me in, just for a moment." It was a woman's voice, soft, but cold. Too cold. The knocking stopped, but the silence was even worse. I went upstairs to my room and stayed there, trembling, trying to forget. The next day, I went to the town. I spoke with an old lady at the market. After much insistence, she said, "They say that land holds an ancient presence." The family that lived there performed rituals. They tried to contain something that should never have been awakened. That night, I decided, just one more night, and I would leave. But it was the worst of all. The noise returned. The knocking. The voice. But now, she was angry. "Open this door." That's what she said. Cold. Commanding. My body started moving on its own. My hand reached for the doorknob. And just before I opened it, a scream. A horrible scream. Coming from everywhere. I stepped back. And I knew, if I opened that door, I would die. The next day, I called my friend, begging him to come get me. When he arrived, I was just a shadow of my former self. We left, and I promised never to go back. But the story didn't end. Even back in the city, the nightmares started. The voice, the knocking, the feeling of being watched. I found out the family was part of an occult group, that an old book had gone missing from the town's library. A book of rituals. A specialist explained to me, that farm sits on a point of energy, a portal. The rituals weren't superstition. They were trying to keep something locked away. Months later, I went back. The house was in ruins, and in one of the rooms, I found the altar and the book. When I touched it, I felt it. Something was watching me. The book talked about opening portals between worlds, and about creatures that could escape. That's what happened. Something escaped, and it's still out there. Since then, my life has never been the same. That place holds an ancient secret, a force that is still searching for what it lost. The countryside may seem peaceful, but it hides horrors that should remain buried. And I was a fool for trying to understand. Story 2. When I was 16, my family decided to spend a few days in an old house in the countryside. It was an inheritance from a distant relative. The idea was simple: relax, escape the rush of the city, and enjoy the countryside. At first, it seemed like paradise. Fresh air, silence, an incredible view of the forest and lake. The house was old, made of stone, with a red roof and an air of history. But soon we realized something was off. It felt like the house was watching us. The first few days were peaceful. We fished, explored the property, and made bonfires at night. But the silence, it wasn't the good kind. It was heavy, unsettling. That night, the first strange thing happened. We were watching an old movie when the TV started acting up. The picture blurred, the sound crackled, and then, out of nowhere, it turned off by itself. My mom tried to turn it back on, but it wouldn't work. While she fiddled with the remote, I looked out the window. Outside, in the middle of the trees, I saw a flickering light. I grabbed a flashlight and went to investigate. But the closer I got, the farther the light moved, until it disappeared. When I came back, I felt like something was following me. After that, things only got worse. Doors and windows appearing open on their own, footsteps upstairs while we were all downstairs. My dad said it was just the wind, but we knew it wasn't. One day, in the forest, I found a hidden cabin. Inside, strange drawings on the walls, symbols painted in a dark substance. Fear made me run back. I returned with my parents, but the symbols were gone. At night, we heard noises in the attic. My dad found only old boxes. Later, I heard knocking at the window. When I looked, I saw a hooded figure standing there, staring at me. We called my parents, but no one was there. I researched the house and discovered that our relative had died mysteriously. Other families had also experienced strange things there. A local researcher spoke about rituals and cults in the area. I started having nightmares. In one, the house was on fire and hooded figures were laughing. I went back to the forest and found another, even more hidden, cabin. Inside, melted candles, symbols on the floor. It looked like a ritual site. Then, I heard footsteps behind me. When I turned around, no one was there. But I felt it. I ran and never went back. To this day, whenever I see a forest, I get chills. It's like something is still there, waiting for me. If I've learned anything, it's this: not everything needs to be understood. Some stories are better left untold. Story 3. When I was younger, I lived in a small village surrounded by vast fields and a forest so dense that sunlight barely filtered through the trees. During the day, everything seemed peaceful, but at night, the silence was so heavy it was terrifying. My parents always whispered about strange things happening there, people disappearing, sounds coming from the forest. But I didn't believe them. Until one night, something strange happened. Our house was isolated, at the end of a dirt road. On one side, there was an open field. On the other, the forest. One night, I started hearing footsteps. They were slow, dragging, and seemed to get closer and closer. At first, I thought it was an animal. But something was off. The footsteps sounded human. On a particularly cold night, the footsteps got so close that I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed a flashlight, went to the window, and shone it into the field. I saw nothing, just the silence of the empty field. But the sound continued. After that, I couldn't sleep well anymore. The house began to feel strange, heavy. One night, I heard a noise coming from the guest room. A creak. Then, something dragging across the floor. Heart pounding, I grabbed a knife and went to the room. The door was ajar, and a faint light spilled out. When I stepped in, I saw a trail of dark mud leading to the window. The smell was foul, suffocating, and on the other side of the glass, there was a figure, staring at me. At that moment, all I could do was shut the door and run to my room. I spent the rest of the night locked inside, too afraid to even breathe loudly. After that, the footsteps became more frequent. But now, they were inside the house, always coming from the same room. The foul smell spread throughout the house. I knew something was there. I decided I had to face it. I grabbed the knife again and went. I threw the door open, and I saw it. It was a creature. It looked human, but it wasn't. Its arms and legs were too long, and what seemed to be its eyes glowed faintly. The air around it seemed to vibrate, as if the world itself was breaking apart. It began to move toward me, making a low, terrible sound. I didn't think twice. I ran. I fled the house, crossed the field, and banged on the neighbor's door until he answered. I told him what I saw, but even I didn't believe my own words. The next day, we went back to the house. Everything seemed normal, except for the trail of mud in the room. The creature had disappeared, but the feeling of being watched remained. Shortly after, my family moved away. But the fear, that never left me. Sometimes, on the quietest nights, I feel like it's still watching me, waiting. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's that some horror stories are more real than we imagine. And those were the 5 Brazilian urban legends that are sure to keep you up at night. Which one surprised you the most? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button. It really helps the channel grow. And of course, share it with your friends who love a good, spine-chilling story. And if you're not subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to join the channel. I'll keep bringing you stories and legends that will spark your imagination. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.